Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, morning community. So, thank you all for joining this live event with Peter Sage. You will never rise above the opinion of yourself. So, we have the huge pleasure tonight to have with us Peter Sage. And so, Peter, just to tell you a few words about Peter. So, Peter is the world renowned international and serial entrepreneur. He's an author, philosopher, and a teacher. His unique way of looking at and relating to life has inspired 10,000 of people worldwide to reinvent themselves. And whether by improving or turning around a business or developing a new and empowering psychology through practical yet profound shift in awareness, Peter hopes also his insight and teaching can offer something of value to those who seek it. So we are very happy to have with us tonight, Peter. So let me bring. So thank you, Peter, to join us tonight. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
No, the pleasure is mine, Clementine. Thank you so much. It's a real honor to be here and I'm part of the morning community. It already sounds like my kind of people.
Great. So tonight we will talk about you will never rise above the opinion of yourself. But before of this, I would like to ask you, last week we had with us Alan Kleinmans, who tell us that you have an incredible story and we would love to hear from you.
Well, thank you to Alan. Alan's an amazing guy. I've had the privilege of knowing Alan for over 20 years now. And I understand you're in good hands with him as well. So big credit out to Alan. Love the guy. And any chance you get to hang on his coattails or take any advice from Alan, you can be sure it's of the highest quality. So make sure that you get a chance to listen to him and follow him. He's an amazing soul and again a really dear friend. So yeah, very very happy that you got to have a dose of Alan, as it were, last week. But yes, I mean for me, I've got many different stories, and I'm tuning in always to see what do I think will serve the audience the most when it comes to the current situation, the current climate, and and as Krasimir mentioned, one of the things that really stood out from one of the talks I gave that he listened to was the statement, you will never rise above the opinion of yourself, and I firmly believe that to be 1000% true. And what I want to cover today is really not so much skills and techniques and exercises. They have their place. But here's one of the challenges. No matter how many skills you learn, it's still the same person who's applying them. So if you don't shift yourself, but you simply learn new skills, you will often simply find new ways of reaching the same destination that you're at. If you don't learn how to increase and improve who you are, then what you do is almost irrelevant. Again, most people that are looking for new skills, new opportunities, new qualifications, all of that stuff are quite often left with the reality that they've simply found different ways of earning the same amount of money. And that's because, as you hear me say throughout this whole presentation, you will never rise above the opinion of yourself. So a lot of people, unfortunately, are still running around in life looking for somewhere to reattach their umbilical cord. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And my goal for this presentation is for me to not teach you new skills, but to shift different levels of awareness so that all of the skills you've learned from people like Alan or people next week from Mark or whoever it may be, many of the so-called teachers or gurus out there that are quite happily giving some high-level quality information and skills. What I want to do in the time we have together today is to make some fundamental shifts, not give you a 3-step program to go do something, but to shift some fundamental belief systems to some fundamental misunderstandings around reality that are preventing you from living your own potential. And if we can do that, then you're free to go and learn all of the skills that you want to put on top of it. But I don't care how high you think you want to build your building. If the foundation isn't strong, it's going to come down. So today I want to work on the foundational levels of awareness that very few people address, very few people take the time to really look at, because it's a lot harder to look in the mirror than it is to look in a textbook or a how-to manual. And so my job for the next hour or so, guys, and I'm very happy to take questions throughout as well, is to essentially get you to look in the mirror in a way that allows you to see and recognize your own greatness. Because so many of us are looking in the mirror of greatness only to have it steamed up, fogged up, and not really see a clear picture of who we are or what we can become. So if I can shift that mirror, if I can wipe clean that mirror for you guys today, that is my outcome. That's what I'm looking for. And if I can do that to some extent, then I've served you, and that's my purpose. Now, of course, some of you may disagree with some of the things I'm going to share. That's okay. Perfectly normal. And that's what makes things happen. Some of you may think you already know some of the things I'm going to share. Well, there's always a great test of that. Because if you know it and you're not living it, you don't know it. And so many people live at the intellectual level of awareness and understanding, thinking that that is the key to change. And of course, it isn't. Why? Because we have 3 different levels of awareness. And I'm going to start with this because it's a fundamental principle as to what I'm going to be building on. The first level of awareness is intellectual level of awareness. That's where you understand something. It makes sense. You read a book. 99% of people that read a book don't change their life. They just acquire more knowledge because they took the information in at an intellectual level of awareness. Now, the upside to that is that it makes you sound really intelligent at a cocktail party. But it doesn't change your life. It doesn't shift behavior. It doesn't break self-sabotage habits. It doesn't get you past a glass ceiling that is essentially robbing you of your own potential. It doesn't stop you from procrastinating. Why? Because you'll never rise above the opinion of yourself. And no matter how much you know or think you know intellectually, that isn't going to shift who you are from a place of being. The next level of understanding that we have is where it goes from an intellectual level of understanding to an emotional level of understanding. That's like, oh, whoa, okay, I get it. Sometimes we call it the penny drops. And you have that shift, that like aha moment, that eureka moment where probably the same information you've heard before, but for some reason now you hear it from a completely different place and it moves you emotionally. It's like, whoa, that got me. Now, the great thing about the emotional level of awareness is that it inspires change in the moment. The challenge is it rarely lasts. And I'll give you a quick parallel. Then, if you take smokers, for example, a smoker knows that they shouldn't smoke. Yeah, that's an intellectual level of awareness. Yeah, smokers aren't unintelligent people. Yeah, they can read the warnings on the packet. Yeah, they know all the science and the health stuff. So it's not that they're not unintelligent or misinformed. They're simply keep that information at an intellectual level of awareness. It doesn't make it to an emotional level of awareness. If it did, for example, they go to the doctor and the doctor says, oh, Mr. Smith, we ran the blood tests. Yeah, those headaches you've been having, I've got some bad news for you. You need to give up smoking immediately, because if you take one more cigarette, you have a high chance of triggering an immediate fatal stroke. Now, all of a sudden, you have an emotional level of awareness about the dangers of smoking. So, whoa, okay, hang on a minute. You didn't suddenly become more intelligent. You weren't suddenly more educated about the dangers of smoking. No, you had an emotional level of the intellectual understanding suddenly went to an emotional level of understanding, and now you're going to do something about it. The challenge is most people who quit smoking start up again. And we all know those people. And you can replace smoking with any other habit that you or I actually engage in. I'm just picking on smokers because it's an easy example. right? But whether it's diet related, whether it's behavior related, whether it's habit related, it's the same principle that applies. Now, where lasting change comes in is at the third level of awareness. And this is where it becomes part of who you are. In other words, it's your identity. You see, if you have a smoker who has been thinking about quitting, but then all of a sudden they get an emotional level of awareness. Their 6-year-old daughter comes up and says, Daddy, please stop smoking. I want you to walk me down the aisle when I get married when I'm like 20, and I don't think you'll make it because you smoke and you're going to die. And she cries and runs away. And like the father's like, oh, knife in the heart, like, oh, twist. It's like, that's it. I screw up my cigarettes. I throw it away. Now, the challenge is if we don't change our identity. For example, if we become a smoker who's quit, which is where most people go in that scenario. I'm a smoker who's quit. Your identity, to quote Tony Robbins, your identity is the strongest force in the human personality, which is the need to remain consistent with how you define yourself. Quick parallel. Why do vegetarians not eat meat? I'll give you a clue. It's not because they have different teeth or a different digestive system. It's because their identity is, I am a vegetarian. Now, the reasons they could choose that are personal and varied, whether it's health reasons, moral reasons, taste reasons, doesn't matter. Once they've made the decision to change their identity to becoming a vegetarian, now there's not even a thought process in what you order off the menu. It's not going to be steak. So the identity governs everything. You can tell a lot about somebody by the identity that they have. You will act differently as the identity of a sibling versus the identity of a parent, or a mother or a father. You'll act differently with the identity of an employee versus an employer. Those identities govern different aspects of behavior, unconsciously, automatically, and we have many different society level identities. So in the smoking example, if you are a smoker who's quit, you have a dichotomy going on. You have a push-pull. It's like my identity is I am a smoker, but by me, my behavior says that I've quit. And the challenge with that is identity beats willpower over time, every time. So you can struggle all you want to try and resist the behavior, as in quit smoking, that's identified with the identity of I'm a smoker. But you'll go back to smoking. It's done. It's already done. Whereas if you take the identity and change it to becoming a non-smoker, that's a different identity to a smoker who's quit. So if I offer a non-smoker a cigarette, what's the obvious answer? No, I don't smoke. If I offer a smoker who's quit, it's like, I've quit. And you've got that push-pull willpower. And willpower always has a time limit. So if we understand that the information that I want to share with you today is not designed to come at you from an intellectual level of understanding, even though many of you will hear it from there. That's okay. Sometimes it takes time. But I'm designed what I'm going to share with you today to at least have an emotional level of understanding at some point. Some of what I'm going to say is going to resonate. But if you dismiss it by, oh, I knew that, I've heard that, but it's still an intellectual level of awareness, you may as well not know it. Because knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. And that's how most people spend their life, accumulating knowledge, thinking that therefore they can win the game, while nothing really changes. Their bank account doesn't go up, their satisfaction score doesn't go up, their levels of fulfillment remain the same. But they've read all the books, gone to all the seminars, practiced all the techniques, and then wonder why life hasn't changed. Simple. You'll never rise above the opinion of yourself. So that's my little pre-frame to our meeting today. For those that don't know who I am, I'll give a quick 2-minute background, just so you can understand why some crazy guy with strange wallpaper behind him is trying to tell me how to live my life. That's not my outcome. as I was graciously introduced, my name's Peter Sage, and I've spent the last 31 years in personal growth and entrepreneurship, building my own businesses from scratch. I dropped out of school at 16. I've got no formal qualifications. I'm not academically gifted in any way, shape, or form. I couldn't spell MBA. And I went to start my first company at 17 with my last 20 pounds to my name. And I built that into a successful business. I moved on, started since then 26, 27 companies in my career, virtually all from scratch, as in no cash, credit, borrowing, etc. Some of them have become international multi-million-dollar success stories. Some I've sold and done very well with. Some have wiped me out completely. Some should have stayed ideas when I was drunk, and pretty much everything in between. And through all of that time, I've gathered a huge amount of experience learning what does work and certainly what doesn't work. And it's the benefit of that experience that I'd really like to share with you guys today to help you maybe shortcut some of the lessons that I took as part of the Slow Learners Club, because I certainly was for many years. So if I can do that and say, get across some of that, I think it's going to make a profound shift. And so let's look at the title of today's talk. The people will never rise above the opinion of themselves, ever. Sit with that for a second. It obviously begs the question, what has to happen for me to raise the opinion of myself? Which also leads into the question, what is stopping me from having a higher opinion of myself? And I'm a great believer that the quality of your life is also linked to the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Why? Because questions are the steering wheel of the mind. The questions will direct your focus. And most people are asking themselves lousy questions. And the challenge with that is you have a machine called the mind, linked up to a supercomputer called the brain, that has a couple of prime directives. One of them is to find the answers to the questions that you ask. So if you ask the question, why does my life suck? It's designed to find you an answer. Because you suck. Because you're not good enough. Because your teacher said you'd never amount to anything. Because your elder brother's always going to be better than you. Because fill in the blank, fill in the blank, fill in the blank. So if we learn to ask better questions, we immediately raise the game in terms of how to use our mind and our brain to our advantage. Because the other challenge that most people don't seem to realize is that the mind has a very specific job to do. It has many jobs, but there's one specific job that it has to do that it is exceptionally skilled at. And that is to justify our decisions and our actions to be in line with our current emotional state. Yes, the mind will always justify. What do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. So you said you were going to get up tomorrow 6 a.m. and go to the gym. And the alarm goes off at 5:30. It's cold. You're tired. You're feeling a little lethargic. You're not excited about going to the gym. Your mind's job is to find a perfectly rational excuse as to why it's okay to press the snooze button. And it will do it from a rational, logical perspective that has absolutely zero basis in truth. All designed to soothe the ego and open a trap door for you to close behind you and feel good about the fact that it's okay because. See, the challenge with the mind that works like that is that it sells us out on our power, because it will always turn around. And in the vast majority of cases, people will lie when they say that I can't. Because what they really should be saying, if they have some self-honesty, which is threatening to the ego, what they should be saying is, I can, but I won't. But as soon as we say, I can't, it's not my fault. So if the mind's job is to justify, for example, if you're angry at somebody or having an argument, Your mind's job is to justify why it is perfectly reasonable to blame them and not apologize, because it's in line with your emotional state. If you're angry, it will find the reason not to apologize. But once we know that it's just the mind doing its job, you don't blame a mosquito for biting somebody. You don't take that personally. It's just what it does. Right? Maybe inconvenient when you're in a t-shirt and in the evening, but you don't blame a mosquito thinking, oh, it's sat there waiting for me all this time, rubbing its little legs together. Oh, yeah, that person looks tasty. There's none of that going on. So the mind's job is just to do what it does. If you're unaware of that, you're setting yourself up to fail. Understand that it'll justify your behavior. Now, whether you act on that justification or not is a different matter. That's usually linked to somebody's value structure, their habits, and their discipline. But at the end of the day, your mind's job is to justify. And so if we ask better questions, it's like a faithful Labrador. If you throw the stick, it'll go get the stick. So throw your brain some sticks to go fetch in the form of better questions. It'll go fetch the answers. So one of the questions, as I said, is what is preventing me from rising above the current opinion of myself? Well, one of the primary patterns of self-sabotage and destruction that I see so prevalent across all cultures of humanity is a nasty, sticky substance that most people get stuck in, called goop. Goop is G-O-O-P, which stands for the good opinion of other people. Now, if you are spending your life stuck in goop, the good opinion of other people, you will never rise in your potential or your own opinion, specifically because you are not being authentic. And the reason you're not being authentic isn't because you're a bad person. It's not because you have some evil plan. It's not because you don't care. Actually, because you care too much. Because you're worried about what other people will think. So you turn into this people-pleasing adaptation machine, seeking all of the usual suspects, which is what I said about looking for somewhere to reattach your umbilical cord. Yeah, and those usual suspects are approval, validation, connection, love, all of the stuff that we crave as human beings, and certainly craved as a kid growing up, trying to get it from our parents. And whether we perceive we did or not is usually what shapes us in terms of how we then project our own relationships forward. So how do you get out of goop? How do you stop being worried about the good opinion of other people and start acting from a place of authenticity? Well, I'm going to share an analogy with you, which I think you'll find very useful. And it's the movie analogy. And that is that I firmly believe that every one of us is starring in the lead role of a specific movie called the movie of our life. Now, how can I say that? I'm pretty confident in being able to say that because you are the only one that appears in every single scene of your movie. So that kind of makes you the star. Now, unfortunately, most people are living as like they're supporting cast in somebody else's movie. But when we realize that our role is to be the star of our own movie, and as the star in our movie, there are two other roles that other people can play. In fact, there's only two other roles that people can play in your movie. Can't be the star because you've taken that role. So you may have a small handful of people that can play the role of a supporting cast. Yeah, a spouse, a sibling, a boss, co-worker, best friend, supporting cast. But the vast majority of anybody who stars in your movie are going to be nothing more than film extras in your movie. Now, what's the definition of a film extra? It's somebody who you don't think about once they're not in your current scene. Now, what happens next is interesting because everybody's walking around thinking, obviously, they're the star of the movie. And as a result of that, we make a fundamental error because as the star of our movie, we think that everybody else sees us as the star of our movie. But guess what? They're starring in a different movie. What movie are they starring in? They're starring in their own. Which means by definition, we can play only one of two roles. Either we're a supporting cast in their movie, or the vast majority of people that we will meet in our lifetime, we will be nothing more to them than film extras in their movie. Now, what does that mean when it comes to Goop? I'll tell you flat out. Most people don't care enough about you to bother to give an opinion. Why? Because they're being too worried about what they think you're thinking of them. And everybody's walking around in their own self-importance bubble, worried about what everybody else thinks, not realizing that everybody else is walking around in a big bubble, being worried about what everybody else thinks of them in their bubble. And when you can let go of that, when you realize it's just a sham, it doesn't exist. The only place it exists is in the self-importance in your own mind, thinking that everybody sees you as the star of your movie when they don't. And when you get that, and I don't mean intellectually, I mean you get that, you can start to relax. You cannot care if you walk into the supermarket without makeup on. Think, oh, what will the cashier think of me? They don't think of you. And the second you're no longer in their scene, they'll never even know who you are. They don't care. You get my point? So, learning how to let go of the good opinion of others is a foundational part of being able to raise the bar when it comes to having your own level of self-esteem. And that's a huge part of moving forward in life. Now, the next part is understanding that the rise of your own opinion is also linked to your level of emotional maturity. The challenge, my friends, is this, that emotional maturity and biological maturity are not linked. See, we don't get to choose whether we age. That's part of the rule set of the physical world. Now, you can buy your creams, you can take your vitamins, you can do all your stuff, but at some point, your body is going to look older than it did today. That's just part of the rule set. So we don't get to choose whether we age biologically, but we do get to choose whether we age emotionally. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of emotional teenagers running around in very adult bodies. Have you noticed that? And you can't complain. It's not their fault. You think, oh, you're older, you should know better. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. Yeah, they may have acquired more knowledge, but that means nothing, as we discussed earlier. So emotional maturity, there's kind of a few benchmarks on the road, a few demarcations of significance. I'll mention three of them. The first graduation point on the journey of emotional maturity, and this ties back into what we were saying about Goop. The first level, the first step, is where you finally become okay not being liked. Oh, how many people felt something there? I'll say that once more. The first step on the journey of emotional maturity is where you finally become okay not being liked. Now, I didn't say you finally become okay walking around pissing people off. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you're okay with not having to fit the approval and the good opinion of other people, because you realize that everybody is only projecting from their own model of the world, from their own level of consciousness, from their own movie. And it's got nothing to do with you. Let's face it, guys. Most people are struggling enough to love themselves. So don't take it personally if they don't love you the way you want to be loved, or approve of you, or say something nice. They're dealing with their own stuff. But when you can finally become okay not being liked, you can have that sense of freedom and emotional maturity to do the right thing, not to do the thing you think other people will like or like you for. Now, the paradox here is this. The second you unhook from needing to be liked, you'll find a lot more people start liking you because you have what they want. There's an energy, a sense of freedom, a sense of, wow. Now, you won't need their adoration, but you're far more likely to get it by being the example of possibility than some chameleon that's saying, oh, if they don't like me this way, I'll be that way. If they don't like me that way, I'll be this way. Because who can trust that? It's just making sense. Now, the second part of the journey of emotional maturity is where you realize and you wake up to the reality and the understanding that life is a growth-centric experience, not a comfort-centric experience. And the awareness of that at an emotional level or deeper is massively transformational for people. Because if you think that we live in a comfort-centric experience, you are going to do your best to avoid discomfort. You're going to make decisions based upon path of least resistance. You're going to essentially have an experience of life that is not in alignment with the basic rules of life. What are the two laws of nature? Pretty simple. Growth and contribution. Now, I didn't make that up. Just look out of your window. Everything in nature grows and contributes, or it's taken out of the food chain. We think we're different. And the reason we get suckered into a comfort-centric experience, or thinking that life is comfort-centric, apart from a huge trillion-dollar consumerism-based mentality of commercial messages pumped at you to buy stuff that'll make your life easier. One of the biggest challenges is the fact that we have a dichotomy going on. We have a nervous system that is wired and hardwired for comfort. And that is useful when it prevents you from sitting too close to a fire. That is useful when it comes to sitting on an ant's nest. But I got news for you. You have a soul that is wired for growth. And we only grow through challenge. And challenge by its very nature has to include discomfort. And there comes the dance that most people don't like doing. They're too busy listening to their nervous system and not listening to their soul, and wonder why life keeps giving them feedback, why they can't earn more money, or life keeps giving them problems, or all of that stuff. So let me give you an analogy that may help deal with this. And it's the analogy that we know if we want to grow, let's go to the human body as a parallel. We want to grow the body, we go to the gym. And in the gym, you only get stronger and fitter through challenging the muscle groups to the point where they can't do what they thought they were going to do, right? So if you are in the gym of life, as we are, and you have a personal trainer called life, called experience, called circumstances, whatever language you want to put on, you are going to resent the workouts in the gym if you don't know you're an athlete. I mean, imagine going to the gym and you've got a personal trainer there and he's like, who is this guy? He keeps shouting at me to do press-ups until my arms hurt. He keeps putting me on the treadmill until I throw up. It's like, I hate this freaking guy. I hate this gym. And every time you go to the gym and you see this guy, you're going to hide behind the weight stack. Yeah, you're going to do the least you can do to tick the box on the workout chart. Now, contrast that with understanding and owning the identity of an athlete. And you know you're going for Olympic gold. That's why you're here. You're here to fulfill your potential. Now, when you walk in the gym, how do you see it differently? I'll tell you. If your personal trainer isn't making you throw up in 30 minutes, you want your money back. You have a whole different energy around training. You see, if you're lifting that last weight on the bar, yeah, and your arms are like screaming out, and you're looking at it from the perspective, the limited perspective of the muscle fiber, yeah, your nervous system that's comfort centric, you're going to be sending messages to the brain. Stop. What the hell are you doing? Right? I'm being broken down. This is painful. Help, quick. Somebody stop this idiot lifting these weights. But if you take the mindset or the perspective of the athlete, you're proud that you just busted out that last screaming, burning rep. You're proud you can't lift your arms for an hour. And you got a personal best. And my advice to you guys, my invitation is stop living life from the perspective of the muscle fiber and start living life from the perspective of the athlete. Life is not a comfort-centric experience, and anyone who told you that, right, lied. Life is a growth-centric experience, and people that embrace the challenges of life, people that flow with the bends of the river that are going the wrong way that they wanted to go, right, and they roll with the punches, tend to have a far better quality of life at every level. I'm not just talking, better financial shape. I'm talking better emotional, spiritual, intellectual, satisfaction, everything. So quick recap. First part of the journey of emotional maturity is becoming okay not being liked. Doesn't mean to say don't be compassionate. Doesn't mean to say don't be personable. It means to say stop validating your self-worth based upon the projected judgments of other people. Because that's a fool's game. But it's a game that you can't get out of if you're swimming in goop. So learn to star as the star of your own movie and realize that nobody else actually really cares. Second part is where you realize life is a growth-centric experience, not a comfort-centric experience. And as a result, you want to take on the fact that, are there going to be challenges? Of course, you want them. You're an athlete going for Olympic gold. Show me the gym. Let me show you what I'm made of. I can handle this. Look at the current situation. Go back a couple of generations. Certainly in former Eastern Bloc. And go speak to your grandparents. Say, oh my goodness, guess what's happening? So, everybody's like in panic mode. We're all shutting down the country. Everybody's complaining. My goodness, what's happening? Is it a nuclear war brewing? Is it the village next door mobilizing an army of bandits to come and take over and rape and pillage everybody? Or no, there's kind of a nasty flu going around. They'll be like, are you freaking kidding me? All right. And don't get sucked into the victim story either. All right. Again, nowhere on planet Earth is the role of victim rewarded. You may get some short-term payoff while you can avoid the responsibility of taking the next best step. You might get some second-rate connection on other people that want to sing the victim story with you, but it's definitely not going to support you in terms of rising above your own opinion. And in fact, you've probably heard the phrase misery loves company. I tend to disagree with that. I'd like to qualify it a little more. Misery loves miserable company. And so the more you will talk about being a victim, the more you will attract people who are at victimhood that agree with you, because being a victim is how they define themselves. Get off that game right away. Why? I'll tell you straight out. 80% of people don't care about your problems, and the other 20% are glad you have them. So give up being a victim. or continue being a victim and allow life to keep punishing you until you change your mind. It's your call. Again, I don't make up the rules. I'm just a keen observer of them. Now, the third key to emotional maturity is when you really start to understand how the game works at the following level. Our outer world follows our inner world. Say that again. The third leg on the journey of emotional maturity is where you realize that our outer world follows our inner world, not the other way around. You see, life acts as an incredible mirror, but most people have it backwards. They think that the outer world is what it is, and therefore I adapt to it. And if my emotional bank account and my financial bank account are linked, most people have it in the wrong order, because they think, hey, Alan, good to see you, buddy. If your emotional bank account is low, it's usually because your financial bank account is low. But what we weren't told is that it's actually the other way around. Your emotional bank account is a leading indicator, not a lagging indicator. Which means that in order for your emotional bank account, in order for your financial bank account to rise, your emotional bank account has to rise first. Outer world follows inner world, not the other way around. Now, the problem is most people are trapped in a mirror circle in reverse. They think the outer world is the originating image and they're reflecting back to it, the emotional counterpart. So my outer world bank account is low, therefore my emotional bank account reflects low. But the challenge is this: you are the originating image and the outer world is the mirror, is the reflection. And here's why most people never get to see that. It's because there is a delay between the originating image and the reflection. We call it the quantum to Newtonian transition point. But I'll give you a quick example. So if you're standing in front of a mirror, here's how most people live their life. And they're frowning, they're upset. Why are they upset? Because the mirror's not smiling. That's how most people live their life. I'm upset because the mirror's not smiling. And when the mirror starts to smile, then I'll change my attitude. And because it doesn't, here's what most people do. They try to grab hold of the outer world and they twist it into shape. In other words, they go get some lipstick and they go to the sad looking face in the mirror and they draw a smiley face on the mirror. That's trying to change your outer world circumstances without changing your inner world attitudes. Now can you hear it tie back to you will never rise above the opinion of yourself? Well, it may create some temporary shift in circumstances, but it will always come back to the mirror can only reflect what is put into it. But because of the delay, we tend to miss that. So if you are standing in front of the mirror of life and you start smiling, but the mirror's still frowning at you, and you smile, and you're like, this doesn't work, it's stupid. And you get angry at the mirror again for it not smiling quick enough. Well, sorry, but if you'd have smiled and kept that smile and kept that smile and kept that smile, eventually what would happen in the outer world is you'd start to see the corners of the lips in the reflection starting to move up. Now, how do we know that? Pretty simple. Right, and stay with me here because I might get a little bit more technical, but I'll try and keep it as simplistic with metaphors as I can. The outer world, let's call that the physical world. We're all familiar with that. Yep. The physical matter reality. That has a certain rule set. We know those rules. They're governed by our three predominant sciences, which is physics, chemistry, and biology. Physics dealing with particles, chemistry dealing with molecules, and biology dealing with cells. And through reverse engineering and observation, we've mastered those rule sets and our understanding of them to the point where we can put a person in space or repair the human body. But what I'm suggesting here is that the outer world, physical matter reality, is actually a subset of something more fundamental, a superset, if you like. And that superset, yeah, you got big superset, little subset inside. The subset is the physical world, the outer world. The superset is the inner world, non-physical matter reality, consciousness, quantum field, whatever language and labels you want to use. In other words, we know that the parent gives birth to the child, and that you can look at some of the characteristics of the child that are common to the parents, correct? So we also know that the inner world, or the non-physical world, gives birth to the physical world, not the other way around. Why do we know that? Because the wave collapses into the particle doesn't collapse into the wave. Basic quantum physics 101. So therefore, the superset is non-physical. So if we're trying to change physical matter reality by grabbing hold of the world and trying to fix it into shape without addressing the issues that are causing that to happen, then we're fighting a losing battle. And so back to looking into the mirror. How do we know that if we smile long enough, the smile in the mirror will come back? Well, let's go to the physical body as an example. Again, let's look at the child and see if we can look at some of the characteristics or deduce some of the characteristics of the parent. If I go to the gym and I walk in 20 pounds overweight, do I walk out skinny? No, of course not. What does it take? Time and consistency. So if I go and I train and I have the right diet and the right exercise program, I know with absolute total certainty that at some point my body's going to change. Why? Part of the rule set. You don't see an athlete go into the gym, spend 2 hours working on their arms, and then go sit in the changing room and say, oh, wow, you know something? I put 2 hours of busting my ass there. I wonder if my arms will grow. What if they don't? What if they decide not to? What? No, we don't have that conversation. We have absolute total 1000% sense of knowing, because we understand the rule set, that if I put in the work, I will get the results. Now, we understand that in the physical world. So why do people sit on their meditation cushion, spend an hour thinking positive thoughts, and then they walk out of the mental gym still overweight? Something bad happens, they think, oh, this positive thinking crap doesn't work. I'll go back to drawing a smiley face on the mirror with my Sharpie or my lipstick. See, we understand consistency is key. So if you smile long enough at the mirror, just like if you go train hard enough, long enough in the gym, the results have to come and you can't stop them because you can't override the rule set. Now, we're okay with that in the physical world, but in the quantum world, it takes time. It takes time to filter down that quantum to Newtonian transition point from going from wave into particle and circumstance, synchronicity, and events of our life. As long as you're planting the seed, it's going to come. And the way I see this, it's almost like the physical world is kind of like the second hand of a clock. You can see it moving. Now, if we do the take a clock metaphor in general, right? The actions that we take, we can see the second hand moving. We can't really see the minute hand moving. And if we stare at the hour hand for a minute, we don't see anything. But if the second hand is moving, do we know that the hour hand is going to move? Absolutely. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean to say that it's not working. So doing the actions that are required, the positive thinking, the affirmations, the meditation, the getting out of the good opinion of others, the getting into a growth-centric experience with life instead of a comfort-centric experience. If we do the work, that's the second hand that's moving. We can relax. The clock works. The hour hand will move. It just won't move at the pace that you want it to because you've been conditioned into instant gratification and lack of patience. All right, but I want it now. And the reason most people want it now is because they don't feel good enough without it. Which brings me to my final point. There's only really one game in town to play, and most people are not playing it. See, the fundamental game that is the most effective game you could ever play, and trust me, if you play this game, everyone's a winner. It's the game of feel great now. That sounds pretty simple. But here's the game that everybody else is playing. They're not playing feel great now. They don't like that game. They've not been told the benefits of that game. They've not been told the rules of the game. They're playing a different game. They're playing the game of feel great when. Feel great when I get the car that I want, when the relationship I want, I get the body that I want, I get the job that I want, I get fill in the blank. Guys, if you are playing the game of feel great when, you are never going to have a relationship with the mirror that supports you. So if you play the game of feel great now, you've already got what it is that you're looking for, which is a feeling that you were trying to get before. But instead, you've now shifted the rules around your permissions. Let me put it this way. The game that most people are playing, I'm going to articulate it this way for you. Listen carefully. The game that most people play, and when you hear it from this perspective, you'll probably laugh. Because it's literally that crazy. The game most people play is, when I get the house that I want, using that as one example, at that point, I will give myself permission to feel the kind of feelings that I could feel now if I decided I wanted to. Anyone spot an issue with that? When I find the partner of my dreams, then I will give myself permission to be happy. Which is a feeling that I could actually feel now, unless I have rules that state that I'm not allowed to feel that until I get the partner of my dreams. So now you're hoping you're going to find a partner of your dreams that likes somebody who they meet who's miserable. Good luck with that. Yeah. When the mirror smiles back at me, then I will stop frowning. Hear it from that perspective. Not going to happen. You look at the most successful people in the world. When I say success, let me make a distinction here. There is a huge difference, my friends, between a life chasing success versus a life going after fulfillment. And those that understand that distinction are the people that often are playing the game of feel great now. Now, you can't play the game of feel great now if you're focused from an emotional level of maturity that says inner world, follows outer world. Because there's no way you can play the game that way. Because now you're relying on the outer world to fit your pictures in a way that allows you to give yourself permission to be happy. Rather than, that's like sitting in front of the fire on a cold night and say, listen, let me cut a deal with you. Give me some heat, and I'll go fetch you some wood. What do you say? Well, I think I know what the fire's going to say. So you don't walk into the gym of life and say, hey, listen, give me the strength, then I'll go lift the weights. That doesn't work. That's how most people live their life. Because they're under the illusion that life is a comfort-centric experience instead of the reality of it being a growth-centric experience. And when you adopt that identity of the athlete, you're like, bring it on. I'm here for gold. I'm not sitting there to get cold. And when we can start making these kind of shifts, then you can go learn whatever techniques you want. Then you can learn the 3 steps to this or the 5 steps to that. You're putting it over the top of a different foundation, which is who you are. And at that point, you can pick and choose your techniques. They're all going to give you a better result because now the opinion of yourself is what has gone up, not your intellectual capacity for following instructions on a 4-step whatever. You get my idea? Is this useful, guys? And yeah, I've been yabbering on about here, so feel free to jump in if you've got any questions or anything. I'm open to move forward, because if you don't stop me, I'll be here for 9 hours. Yeah, Alan knows that, because we go to the same school.
It was great. It's fascinating, and people love it.
You know, when you say about this, that I want to meet the partner of my life, and actually I meet my wife when, believe me, I was in love with myself. I was going to the gym, I was going for a salsa. I didn't look for anyone around me, and this is the way how we met, and it's just amazing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just
and the challenge with the relationships is most people are running around in life like a half circle, looking for another half circle to complete them. Yeah, it's the Tom Cruise Hollywood BS mantra. It's like, you complete me, right? No, you don't. You put me into a relationship of codependency and fear of loss. Right? That's like, you know, once you become the full circle yourself, you're free to attract another full circle, and now you can celebrate being together. See, now 1 + 1 is 11. And at that point, you say, oh, but I need you. No, you don't. You don't need anything. And if you need somebody, you cannot love them. Let me tell you that again. You cannot love that which you need. Because the first time it looks like it's going to walk out of the door, you're going to adapt yourself to become inauthentic to fit whatever strategies you think will bring them back. And the only thing, ironically, that'll bring them back is you being authentic. And even if they don't come back when you're not authentic, you didn't want them to come back anyway. Send them love, wish them well.
So I have a question. So you say it's all about asking better questions. So what are the questions you ask yourself to raise the opinion of yourself? To get a way of getting the approval of others, or yeah.
So if you recall, one of the flip sides to that was also asking the question, what is preventing me from doing that? Because if we go to the late, great David Hawkins, and he wrote an incredible book it was his last gift to the world, written in a language pattern that's allowed the vast majority of humanity to appreciate his work. Most of his books were fairly heavy, not for the spiritually timid, but his final book was called Letting Go. And one of the techniques in there was essentially saying that if you're depressed, rather than try to fight the depression, look at what is the opposite of that, which is the state that you desire. Let's say it's joy. And instead of trying to fight depression, why don't you focus on lowering your resistance to joy? I use that as an example because when it comes to asking better questions about how do I rise above the opinion of myself, right? Well, you can't. So it's essentially, how do I raise my self-esteem? How do I raise my experience of life so I can start playing the game of feel great now, not tie me into a losing battle of feel great when? So a better question to ask on the flip side to that, if you recall, was, okay, what is preventing me from being able to do that? And that's where we come to the usual suspects. The good opinion of other people. Yeah, thinking life is a comfort-centric experience. Yeah, not being okay with not being liked. And trying to fix the outer world rather than work on the inner world, which will then change the reflection in the mirror, which is the outer world. So there are many different aspects of individuation that are responsible for why we would have limiting beliefs. A lot of them, if you want to go into categories, and again, we're limited on time to an extent, but if you want to get into categories, one of the most common is that we will make decisions and act out behaviors based upon unconscious direction that is influenced from where we perceive we did or did not get love as a child from the people we most wanted it from. And a lot of our limiting behaviors come out of that. And I'll give you a quick example. So if you take a baby is the most pure example of egocentric behavior that exists in a human. And that's perfectly okay and perfectly normal for a baby. See, if a baby is hungry at 2 o'clock in the morning, it doesn't lie there thinking, you know something? Mum and Dad haven't had much sleep for the last couple of nights. I'll let them sleep until 7 and then I'll cry. No, babies don't do that. They don't care how much sleep you've had or not had. They're going to scream their head off. Now, you appreciate that because it's what babies do. It may be inconvenient, it may be exhausting, but you don't stop loving the baby because it's what babies do. Yeah, if your husband hands you the kid, the baby to hold while he's tying his shoelaces and you've got a new blouse on to go to a job interview, and all of a sudden the baby throws up over your new blouse, it's inconvenient, but you don't blame the baby because it's what babies do. Now, if you go to a 2-year-old, for example, this is the first actual part of the journey of emotional maturity of a human being. And it's the impetus behind what we call the terrible twos. I'm sure you've heard of that term. It's where the tantrums come out, the terrible twos. Well, once you understand context for the terrible twos, it makes total sense. You go from this nice, loving little toddler to this screaming like ogre, and mothers think, who the hell stole my baby? And gave me this monster in return. Well, it's pretty simple. See, the terrible twos are essentially the reaction to a person who spent their entire life being the center of the universe, who now is told that they're no longer the center of the universe, but they still want to be. Because now when they're 2, they can be told, no, now's not the time. No, you're not going to do that. No, be quiet, sit down. Mummy, we're within a minute. Oh, you're hungry? You're going to have to wait until dinner. That's not what I've been used to for the last 2 years. I scream, I get what I want. Well, that's not going to cut it when you're 2. Right? Some people haven't learned that at 22, but you get my point. All right, so the terrible twos are simply kids that, or babies that are going through that transition of realizing they're no longer the center of the universe, but they still want to be. That's pretty where it's at. But by the time we get to our earliest memory, let's say 4 or 5 years old for the average person, we've already had several years of programming that love is conditional based upon our behavior. In other words, if baby does what mommy or daddy says is right, they get the perception that they get love, approval, validation, acceptance. And if they do behavior that is out of accordance with the language patterns that are now able to be communicated that weren't when they were a baby, then the perception of the child, not the reality, but the perception of the child, which becomes their reality, is that mum and dad have withdrawn connection, love, approval, validation. Now, of course, the parents love the kids unconditionally, but that's not the reality of the mind of the child. And one has to understand that perception is reality. So we grow up essentially with a model that says, if I behave as a child, I get approval, validation, significance, connection. And we then spend the rest of our lives projecting that into our own relationships and wonder why they're so dysfunctional. For the vast majority of people. So if you're coming from a place of, as I said, I will adapt myself to meet what I think are your approval strategies in order to accept me and not leave me. I'll just, tell me whatever I have to do. Well, if it's anything other than be who you are authentically, you're in the wrong relationship anyway. Get the point. So, ask yourself better questions. How can I get rid of what's stopping me? How do I lower my resistance to my, what my natural birthright, which is the potential that I'm here to live, by looking at some of the categories around the belief systems I've carried in from childhood that I may not even be aware of. And one of the challenges, we've never sat down and asked ourselves question. I mean, when was the last time you spent an hour thinking like this? Or a minute, 10 minutes? It's just not what we do. We're too distracted by trying to control the outer world and wonder why we're still playing the game of feel great when. So if we can say, okay, you know, I could probably ask the question, and I'd probably know the answer. If I was to say to you guys, would you walk down the street tomorrow wearing the same clothes that you wore when you were 10 years old? Answer's probably no, right? Not that you just wouldn't be able to squeeze into them, right? But you'd probably look a little silly. But most people are walking through life wearing the belief systems they had for when they were 10 years old. And that affects you way more than the clothes you wear, trust me. And so coming from a place of questioning our own beliefs, why do I believe that? Is a question very few people ask. Why? Because of what I said earlier. The mind's job is to find the justification as to why you're right. So questioning your own belief is not something that pops up on your to-do list very often. Yeah? Or, for example, it's like, oh, are you going to get up and sing at karaoke? Oh, no, I can't sing. Oh, really? Why do you believe that? Oh, I just can't. Oh, no. Saying you can't sing is like saying a dog can't bark. Right? For thousands of generations, we sang around the campfire. That's how essentially stories were told and passed around, and you know, cultures were built. So why do you think you can't sing? And you'll usually find out it was one significant emotional event that was painful, where you sang in music class or at a birthday party and somebody turned around and says, oh, wow, you sound like a dead cat. And you linked judgment and emotional pain to singing, and then made up an identity of I'm not a singer because to do that would be more painful. And it was simply a belief based upon somebody who offered an unqualified projection that you took on as true and have never questioned since. Now take the same example in finances. Why are you not rich? Oh, well, you will trace back at some point, because the conscious mind will tell you, well, of course I want to be rich and I want to be comfortable and I want a bigger house and a better car and all the usual crap we've been conditioned to validate ourselves with. But you'll probably trace back the fact that you're still operating from a belief that money is bad. Parents fought over money, and there's an unconscious connection there that if I have money, or money equals pain or lack of love or any of that stuff. Again, not from a front part of the brain perspective. This isn't down at how intelligent you are. This is down at how programmed you've been. So asking questions along those lines will usually have a far deeper impact than running off trying to read some book on how to go make some more money. Does that make sense?
So you talked about resistance. What is your most effective way to recognize your own resistance and lifting up the resistance?
The most effective way is to see where you get hooked. See where you get hooked emotionally. Because we all get triggered. And those trigger points really need to be looked at as opportunities to learn and grow. It's almost as if you're going through life with this rucksack on your back with a shovel sticking out of it. And when you have a breakdown, when you have an emotional, impactful event, when you get you're feeling upset. Let's take it in the context of a relationship. Is if you want to know what the master skill of relationships is, I can tell you, because very few people teach it. The master skill of relationships is not learning how to understand your partner. It's not learning how to create a loving space. It's not learning how to come from non-judgment. All of those are useful. But the master skill of relationships is in understanding how to repair breakdown. See, 99% of relationship coaches out there are trying to teach you how to avoid breakdown. Well, I got news for you. That ain't going to work. There are going to be breakdowns. You're going to catch each other at a low spot. You're going to catch each other in a bad, or more of you in a bad time. You're going to say the wrong thing. Something's going to get triggered through no fault of your own. again, through some childhood memory or whatever it may be. Learning how to repair breakdown is the master skill of relationship. I don't care how great you can make it work when the sun's out, but when the storm comes, can you keep the boat on an even keel and learn to restore connection? Because if you can't do that, you can have a potentially beautiful relationship that would just never get back together. Or you live in the ocean for 3 weeks on different sides of the bed, right? Because you don't know how to say sorry, apologize, or restore connection, or say the right thing, or again, a whole different side. But when it comes to really trying to go through life and you get hooked and you've got this rucksack and this shovel on your back, at the time where it gets emotionally uncomfortable, whether it's through lack of certainty, which most of the world is currently experiencing, whether it's through financial worries that most people fight about or lay awake at night worrying about, whatever it may be, or all of that, instead of following the traditional emotional route, which is a thought which produces a chemical, neuropeptide hormone biochemistry shift in the body that is then felt as an emotion, which then triggers the mind to justify more thoughts in line with that emotion, and we go off on a cycle, right? Instead of going down that route, or you're faced with discomfort, reach for the shovel and start digging through asking better questions. What is it about this that triggered me? Why is it that I get upset over that? And start getting honest with yourself and peeling back the layers of the onion. See, the problem is most people don't reach for a shovel. What do? They reach for a drink. They reach for an escape. They reach for an excuse. And they reach for pointing a finger, whatever it may be. It takes courage to reach for the shovel and say, even in the moment of discomfort and emotional pain right now, I'm willing to ask better questions around what is this about me that I can learn? And trust me, conditioning yourself to say, what have I learned, or what can I learn, or focus on what you can learn versus what you can lose, is the difference between a life of fulfillment and a life on antidepressants.
So we had Rini was asking about the life of based on fulfillment, and she was asking what are the next steps for fulfillment?
Well, see, fulfillment is only found if you're playing the game of feel great now. You can't have fulfillment playing the game feel great when, because then you're going to finally get to the top of what you think is success mountain, and you're going to want to hang yourself or jump off because there's not what you want there. And this is the classic. I mean, Alan, if you're still with us, you'll smile at this. I mean, there's so many people, and we see this in so many examples of society. You get all of these entrepreneurs, male or female, let's just use a male as an example. And they work so hard at the office for years, and they ruin their relationship, they ruin their health, they miss seeing their kids grow up, all so that hopefully one day they can get to a place where they've earned enough money to pay for their divorce, to hire a personal trainer to be able to give them their health back, and to buy their kids loads of stuff so they love them again. Right? That's the game people play. They just don't realize it. They're chasing success in a way that is setting them up to fail. And unfortunately, feel great now. Oh, but my bank account's low. I've lost my job. How can I play the game of feel great now? Chunk up. You see, if you realize that we're not here to play the game of how can I accumulate enough stuff so I can be the richest person in the graveyard, that's the wrong scorecard you're playing from. You're playing the game of how do I become a better actor in the movie of my life? I can tell you what the rules to that game are very simply. It's a progression of choosing love over fear in ever more challenging circumstances. I'll say that again. The real reason we're here on this planet, in my somewhat qualified opinion, is to choose love over fear in ever more challenging circumstances. Now, why do I say that? Is that just Pete's philosophy? No. Let's go to evolution. Let's look at science. Let's look around, see what life's trying to tell us. Well, if we go to the fossil records for the last 400 million years, they tell a pretty consistent story. And that is that life is continually evolving, hence the term evolution, into higher and higher levels of complexity. So we start with a single cell amoeba, and then you go forward, X billion years, and you have 400 million years, and you have a human body of 50 trillion cells. If you to take 50 trillion amoebas and one food source, what have you got? Pretty simple. War. Right? Yeah. Everybody's competing for the food. Limited supply. Darwinian mentality, survival of the fittest, get out of the way. I want what's mine, otherwise I'm going to die. You go to a human body, 50 trillion cells as one organism, and one food source, you don't have war. You don't have the liver and the kidneys ganging up against the spleen and the lungs to get more hemoglobin from the blood. That doesn't happen. No. So what is required for the entire aspect of evolution to work? What is the prime directive on the direction of travel that we can assess with a somewhat intelligent brain? Very simple. Cooperation. That's what's required. Now, if you look at the world right now, especially the governments of the world, they're acting like a whole bunch of amoebas trying to get something for their own gain. It's probably why we're going through some sort of cathartic transition right now. But here's my point, guys. If the whole aspect of evolution is pointing towards evolving into higher levels of complexity that require more cooperation and less competition, then what happens if you take the word cooperation and extrapolate that to its logical conclusion? You hit love. As if it's hidden in plain sight as the elusive obvious. I mean, look at how nature set up the game. We have masculine and feminine. If we don't learn how to get on, we go extinct, for God's sake. It's kind of built into the system. And nature could have set it up anyway. Squeeze the shoulder here and you get a new kid. No, it's set it up in a very intelligent way that fosters the prime directive of evolution. Now, okay, in the early days of lower levels of consciousness throughout human history, we've had some hormonal help. We've had some instinctive help. But as we grow our consciousness, if we don't come together in a consentful way, one of you goes to jail. All right? So, built into the whole thing, cooperation has always been there. In other words, why are we really here? Let's chunk it down. We're here to learn how to love. And love is simply the absence of fear. So that's how we grow up. So, it's when you start playing the game from that level, life gets easier. There's less drama. The way I equate this, guys, and I'll use this as our final metaphor, then I'll open for any questions from the guys, then we can wrap up. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. But in the movie of your life, I want you to imagine a building with 10 stories, 10 floors. And it's in the movie writing district of town. And on each of the floors, there are script writers that are writing the script of your movie. Now, each of those floors are correlated to the level of consciousness that you have. In other words, on the bottom floor, it's a horror movie. On the second floor, it's a soap opera. On the third floor, it's a drama. You start getting into the mid floors, it's more of a rom-com. You get up to the top, it's an adventure. It's a love story. It's spectacular. You get my idea. Now here's the challenge. Most people are wondering why their movie is turning out the way it is and they're going to the script writers. Let's say you're on the 3rd floor, right? Your life's a soap opera. You're dealing with what I call OPD, other people's drama, consistently. You attract it, it's always there. You solve it at home, it shows up at the gas station. You solve it there, it shows up at work. Your life's a drama. Why? Your script writers are writing drama. That's their job. So what shows up in the movie of your life? Drama. And what most people are doing is they're trying to grab hold of the pen, and the script writers are walking, oh, no, start writing comedy. No. Your job is simple. You want a better life? It's not difficult. You walk into the elevator and you press up. And you walk out on a different floor. Now, there will be some transition issues because of continuity. Yeah, so if you have a certain level of script that you're used to, let's say it's a drama and your boss is a complete dick, and therefore you're having all of this drama at work, but now you go to a personal growth seminar, you make some internal shifts, you work on there, you let go of the good opinion of others, you realize you start taking on the challenges of life rather than running from them or complaining at them, you give up the victim story, you've gone in the elevator, you've pressed up, and you've come out on the comedy floor. Life's going to be more joyful. Well, guess what? There's continuity. You still have the same boss. So what do the script writers do? It's like, oh, wow, they're on this floor now. We've only got what we've got to work with because they're still at that job. Well, let's get them fired very quickly because we need to get rid of that idiot boss. He doesn't serve this script. And when you shift, the perception, if you're not aware of what's going on, is that that transition is chaos. And because most people don't know how to handle uncertainty, when chaos shows up, they run back down to the floor that they know. Again, quantum to Newtonian transition point. Give it time. And if you start having chaos in your outer world because you've made some internal shifts, that's a good sign. That means things are happening. The script writers are having to write things out of your script, to write new things into your script in order to maintain the continuity. Does that make sense? So that's probably the best that I can share with you in the time that I've got. But again, I'm open to any other questions, guys.
Yes, we have a question from Victoria. She said, do you have a few tips how to keep the work and the motivations once we have the first results? How to keep track of our achievements?
Right. So the question is, how do you stay motivated or keep track of your achievements? I have several journals, and I would recommend people have journals or a journal with different sections in, because the left brain is inherently doubtful. It deals with the outer world, systems and processes that are governed by the physical rule set. Now, when you're dealing with creating the reflection rather than trying to draw on the reflection, the left brain gets confused because it can't see it, touch it, smell it, see it, right? Because it's working in the subset. The right brain is more superset, non-physical matter reality. So if you keep a journal, the most powerful journal that you can keep is a journal of positive confirmation, which means that when something shows up that you can't really explain, a coincidence, a synchronicity, a something that you couldn't have planned, that you didn't see coming, that usually starts with, well, it turns out that, you write that down. The more you can keep a list of those things, the next time you face uncertainty and you have to trust the flow of the river rather than try to control the flow of the river, right? Don't put your energy into trying to control the river. Put your energy in controlling your position in the river. And most people don't do that. They try to control the current itself, outer world. But if you've got a list of 20 things where the last time you let go of the need for control, that you surrender to a higher level of intelligence, that you realize that the universe is taking care of you, it's not hostile. And you've got 20 different references, it's a lot easier for the left brain to unhook its death grip on reality and allow you to maintain that level of calm and surrender. I would also keep a journal of things I'm grateful for, your gratitude list. It's huge. Gratitude is the fastest way to shift fear. Well, to be honest, that's not accurate. Unconditional love is the fastest way, but most people, as we discussed earlier, just don't have references for unconditional love. Their entire life is a reference in childhood of conditional love, or so they thought. So they don't have the references. Gratitude is different. It's always great to be grateful for. You can always find something to be grateful for. Even mainly using contrast frames. I'd also keep a journal of magic moments, magic memories, times in our life where we've had things that have made us laugh out loud, or times that have taken our breath away, or what have you. Capture those, because memories are like, they sit on the shelf, but they get dusty if you don't take them down and polish them up now and again. And I have a list. My magic moments list is well over 1,000. From when I was 5 years old, winning the paint the Easter egg competition at school, through to some of the proudest moments of my life, some of the just basic moments. I had a letter today from somebody that read my book from the other side of the world that made me cry. Magic moment. I capture that. So if you start keeping a journal of gratitude, magic moments, and positive confirmation, as well as your insights and daily journaling for yourself, that will really help you keep on track with allowing you to measure your success and keep your focus where it needs to be.
Thank you. We have also Luis, who is asking, how can I prioritize goals with 3 kids, and how do I let go of resistance too?
You guys want everything. When it said, how do I prioritize goals with 3 kids? See, let me share with you a couple of insights around goal setting. I have a different take on goals to most people in personal growth. See, I firmly believe that the purpose of a goal is not to achieve the goal. And that tends to screw a lot of people up who are in like the buy me, achiever mode, let's make it happen. No. The purpose of setting a goal is not to achieve the goal. It's to see, who do you need to become in order to achieve the goal. Now, when you see it from that perspective, it has a different energetic connection. It's no longer about achieving the goal. It's about, who do I need to become? So therefore, we start setting goals that are worthy of us becoming greater. It's not about whether we get them or not. It's the journey to them where all of the magic is found. Right? And if you realize that if you're setting goals that you know how to achieve, they're too small. Why? The how is none of your damn business. Your job is to get excited about the fact that, here's something that lights me up. I don't know how, because if you're setting goals based upon if you think you can achieve them, you're only ever going to set them within your comfort zone or your radar. And most of the stuff that'll get you the goals you really want, that can cause you to become greater than who you are, the how is off your radar. You're not going to see it coming. Providing you have the heart and the mind united in being happy about the goal. And you say, yep, feel great now. And if I get the goal, if I don't get the goal, I'm going to go swing the bat. I'm not linking my self-worth to my net worth. The biggest mistake most entrepreneurs make. Now, if you've got 3 kids,
So most probably we have some kind of technical issues, and we hope Peter will join again. Maybe it's the issue with internet. He's in UK right now. Me personally, I had a question also, which is my personal question for my baby. But I hope Peter will join again. Let's see.
You want to text me?
No, it's okay, my love. Anyway. So, my love, what is your takeaway from all this so far?
Well, I wrote actually a few things about, being okay of not being liked. I know that the one thing that I have is about being ridiculous. So this is a big takeaway for me to, ask myself question, how can I get free of this, Uh,
I like this one with the elevator also. It's amazing.
what are you takeaway? It would be great to see the insight that you're getting from it. And if Peter it doesn't join, it's coming. Hello, wait, we are bringing you now again.
Thanks God
There you
you're
go.
here, because I was thinking to get naked so to keep the audience online.
I'll hang up then quickly. Guys, I can still hear you and see you, but for some reason my feed cut off.
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay. It's part of the bends in the river of life.
Yes.
Yes. So we have another question. You wanted to ask questions for Julia?
Yes, Peter, I have a question. I have a daughter. We have a daughter. She's 2 years and 6 months. I love her so much. You can imagine the love. And when I'm in this self-development, I understand about the blockages and all the limited beliefs we get until we are 7 years old. And I'm wondering what to do, how to react, not to create for her limiting belief, which after in the future is going to give her, this kind of resistance to many things.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing: as parents, and again, I don't speak from experience. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'll show you my 2 kids. Yeah, but that's my 2 kids. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, mine have 4 legs. So I'm not qualified to talk from that perspective, but I can share an opinion. I can't give you my advice because I'm not qualified, but I can give an opinion. My opinion that the role of a parent is essentially to prepare children for adulthood, and the best way to be able to do that in terms of the best gift you can give them is the gift of self-esteem.
Yes.
Self-esteem is built around the fact that they know that they're loved. And while all parents say, I love you, I'm going to make it so that, what is the style or the language that they would receive it in? And yes, we have rules within that need to be followed, but there are ways to basically still create an environment of love for the child that knows it's loved, even if it's made the mistake. Learning how to reframe their insecurities from looking on the bright side or on the wrong side, trying to interrupt the patterns of thought that are taking them into a negative direction and steering them elegantly into a more positive direction consistently is best. Are you going to get it right all the time? No, you're not designed to. Yeah, take the pressure off, set the intention, and then because you're the star of your own movie, and if you get every single answer in class, you're in the wrong class. We're designed to learn as much from the wrong answers we give than the right answers we give. So holding a space for them, creating an environment where they know they're loved, supported, and not judged. And it's like, Daddy, I want to be an astronaut. Amazing. You'd make an amazing astronaut. And tomorrow it's like, Daddy, I want to be a vet. You're going to be an incredible vet. It's like, oh, you don't want to be doing that. It's too hard work. It's like, you're promoting possibility. You're promoting the fact that they can do anything, that they're incredible, that they're special, that they're all of that counters a lack of self-esteem. And allow them to have their experience. They're going to fall down and they're going to scrape their knee. That's okay. Yeah, they're going to fall off their bike, and come home crying. That's okay. It's part of the process. And just remember that the unchallenged person remains juvenile. and use it as an opportunity to work together and increase your relationship in the custodian of being able to give them that environment. Because there are going to be challenges. The 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds know how to play mummy off against daddy. You know, there's going to be times where you're going to get cross with each other because you think you've been undermined or whatever. Just it's par for the course. Just have an overarching understanding that the intent here is that we're going to do our best. We're not always going to get it right, and that's okay because we're going to do the best we can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
We had Luis wanted to ask, because it has been cut before you were fully answering her question about the 3 kids, how to reach their goals.
Yeah, I was just saying, the purpose of setting a goal is to see who do you need to become. When it comes to kids, how do you prioritize? Ask yourself better questions. It's not about how do you prioritize your own goal setting in spite of 3 kids or with 3 kids. You have a responsibility as a parent. That's okay. But don't validate yourself by the actions of your kids. That's another big one, right? If you're validating yourself, you can't stop. If your kids, if one comes back from school with a detention, one gets in trouble because they got caught smoking cannabis, one gets kids are going to do what kids are going to do, providing you're not the one giving them the cannabis. Don't beat yourself up, right? It's a case of do the best you can, and ask better questions. Is there a way that I can create more time for myself with the kids? What does that look like? Would it mean getting a nanny? Would it mean training the older one to be a little more responsible for the younger one? Would it mean the strategies out there that'll allow you to explain that there's 30 minutes a day where it's mummy time, and therefore I've got a sign on my door that says don't knock unless you're bleeding, right? And be able to prioritize yourself first, because you cannot give that which you don't have. And know that you're giving from your overflow, and don't question whether you're a good enough parent ever. Right? It may be tough at times. It may be challenging. Kids don't come with an owner's manual. And we remember how crazy we were when we were young. So don't blame them for being crazy, and blame yourself for not being the best parent. We're all here as a growth-centric experience, not trying to get a perfect row of 10s on the scoreboard. Hopefully that helps a little.
Thank you, Peter. And we have another question. Do you think there is a financial crisis, and how to protect ourselves from it?
I star in my own movie. So whatever's going on in the big budget Corona movie, I'm not being sucked in as an unpaid film extra in that script. You will always be able to star in your own movie, providing you don't get sucked into a narrative that doesn't have your best interest at heart. You can create anything you want. You want money? There will be winners and losers in every game. People asked me at the beginning of January, what does 2020 hold? Now, nobody saw what was coming, but I pretty much said, I know what 2020 is going to happen. I know what's going to happen. Same thing that happened last year, same thing that'll happen next year. Same that happened the last 500 years and the next 500 years. 2 things are going to happen in 2020. Challenge and opportunity. And when you recognize that it's part of the game, it's cyclical. Yeah, there's going to be a financial crisis, so ask better questions. What are people looking for? How can I add value? How can I create opportunity for myself in a way that turns this to my advantage? That's a very empowering question. How can I turn this to my advantage? What's funny about this I've not noticed yet? And again, the steering wheel of the mind. So there's a huge amount of opportunity for home-based business these days. Yeah, there's a huge amount of winners in the game right now. And if you're in an industry that looks like it's going to be negatively affected, pivot quickly. Start looking at different opportunities. But again, if you raise your inner game, the right piece of the outer game will find you. Just don't lose faith in smiling at the mirror, because it's not smiling back yet.
Thank you, Peter. Peter, can you tell us about your book and how the people can get it?
Well, it's a very different different story. Well, yes, I mean, we talk about the ability. I'll give you the short version, and then I'll give you guys a link where you can grab it for next to nothing. But I was involved in a very interesting bend in the river 3 years ago. I was involved in a big business deal I was doing when I was living in Dubai. And long story short, I got a knock on the door one morning, and a big multi-billion-dollar company was suing me for $17 million. And I'm like, this is crazy. There's no way. They were trying to put a different contract on me. I said it was completely erroneous. It turned out none of the allegations ever made it to court because it was all basically a hoax. But halfway through the civil court action that we were fighting each other on, they gave me a contempt of court application. And I thought it was a chess move. I didn't give it much credibility. I looked at their argument. It was intelligent, but it had no basis in reality. And so I go to court expecting it to be dismissed within 5 minutes. They sell it to the judge, and he gives me 6 months in prison, in the most violent prison in England. This is 3 years ago, as the only non-criminal. Never been accused of a crime, never been arrested, never been charged, never been convicted, still don't have a criminal record. Right? And I served 6 months, lost my business, lost everything. And I went into that situation smiling, laughing, excited. Why? Because I know how to play the game of feel great now, not feel great when. I know how to reach for a shovel instead of a drink. I know how to point the finger this way instead of that way. And I said, look, if I'm going to go in, I'm not going to go in as a prisoner. We talked about identity earlier. The identity I chose was to go in as a secret agent of change. And I ended up getting a lot of the prisoners off drugs, stopping suicides, reducing the violence between the wings, redoing the intake system that's now being used across prisons around the world. I won a national award while I was in there for the difference that I was making. And it turned out to be one of the most incredible adventures I've ever had the privilege of living. Now, when I went in, I decided to write to my senior coaching clients, people that were paying me £50,000 a year at the time, to learn my best strategies on how to live life at the level I've been giving you an insight into. And so every 2 weeks I wrote down. It was part diary, part journal, part how-to manual at Tradecraft. Yeah, there's letters in there where I was showing how I was stopping suicides. Yeah, and I've got 10 minutes to stop somebody killing themselves permanently. How do you do that? Yeah, I'm walking across the wing one day, and there's 3 guys arguing over religion that's about to get violent. And by the way, 3 deaths in 1 week was the worst week I was there. This is a serious prison. Attempted murders pretty much every week. Blood on the floor every day. And I was the only non-criminal. I was treated exactly the same as everybody else. And I was writing these letters, and at the end, when I came out after 6 months, my students said they'd learned more from these letters than following me around the world for the last 2 years on stage. It was transformational, life-changing, and I had to publish it. I'm like, well, look, these were private letters. This was never meant to be for the public, because you guys pay me a lot of money for this. They says, yes, but this would help thousands of people. I'm like, okay, let's do it. So we published the 11 letters. That's all they are, the 11 private letters I wrote to my senior students. And we published, and it went bestseller in 2 hours, Amazon #1 in 4 hours, sold to 26 countries on the first day, outsold 3 suppliers on the first day. And if you check any review on Amazon, Audible, Kindle, iBooks, Goodreads, it's changed the lives of everyone that's read the book. I have to say, I get emails and letters every day that make me cry. And it's had such an impact. I want to get it out to so many people, because the tagline for the book, it's called The Inside Track, an inspirational guide to conquering adversity. And it is a how-to manual to how to become your best when life gives you its worst, which is why so many people are resonating with it right now. It's won several awards. It just won another Book of the Month award in a big Thought Leaders book club. And yeah, I'm very proud of the way that the river winds, and you can never see around the bends, but you always trust the river. It turned out to be incredible. And if you really want to have a look, there's a website that I can send you to, where instead of paying 25 euros or whatever on Amazon, you can go and get it for just the cost of shipping, which is maybe about way less than half of that. And that is getpetesbook.com. Or you can go to my website at petersage.com and you can see a link to get the book for free. Just cover the shipping on there. So yeah, getpetesbook.com, or go to petersage.com and you'll be able to get the book on there as well with a load of other resources. So I try and make this as available to everybody as possible because it's helped so many people, and that's what I want to do. So that's the story of the book. And yeah, it's one of the most incredible adventures I've ever had the privilege of living.
Thank you. That was
amazing. One last question, because I want to ask you, you're going in Bulgaria in October.
Mm-hmm.
There are many Bulgarians there watching. Can you say exactly what is the seminar? And for example, if these people, they have a big company, why they need to bring their employees with them on the seminar?
As you've probably seen, mindset is everything. I don't care how much you invest in yourself, your skills, your staff, your HR, your product R&D. Nothing will give you a return on investment like upgrading your mindset to somebody that can handle uncertainty, deal with adversity, walk into a room when everybody's in chaos and say, move, I'll handle it. And have that sense of knowing that when the world goes to hell in a handbasket, right, you can take charge and remain calm and centered. When your kid comes home screaming because they were bullied at school or they got the wrong report card or something went wrong, you can be a pillar of strength for them and your loved one, for your community. And over that time, in the time I'm going to be in Bulgaria, I've had close to less than 2 hours with you guys. Spend an entire day with me where we can work together and interact, and I will be able to show you how to cement this mindset that really becomes part of who you are, not just an intellectual or emotional level of understanding. And that is going to be a huge upgrade, because I'm not here to teach you anything. Yeah, that's information, and most people today are drowning in information, and they're starving for transformation. See, my goal is this, pretty simple. When you walk into that event, you are walking out somebody different, somebody better, somebody more upgraded, and with a much higher opinion of yourself.
I will be definitely there.
I look forward to it. You bring your people, I'll handle the rest.
Thank you very much, Peter. That was amazing. Thank you for your time.
By the way, this is a great present for me, because it's my birthday this week. I become 43.
Oh wow! What's on Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
My birthday Saturday.
Really? Amazing.
Another Gemini. Okay.
Another crazy Gemini.
Yeah, both of me. Yeah. Well, we'll celebrate our birthday weekend then, and hopefully that's been of value to the audience. I'm grateful for their time. I'm grateful for you giving me the opportunity to set this up so I could add a little bit of value and hopefully leave a little thumbprint on some people's thinking as we move forward. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing you guys, and hopefully some people in the audience as well when it comes to the event. And I'm very excited about where we go from here. So guys, my blessings. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you, Peter.
much. Yes.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening,
I will
everybody.
indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Take care.